What's up, everybody? This is Football at the Bar, and we're your host. I'm TA.
And this is Uncle Chuckus.
And we are here to talk about some NFL action, ladies and gentlemen. And before we get started, I need all of you, as you know, I need you to do us a favor. I need you to like, download, and subscribe. Do that for us. And this show is being brought to you by ATB Media Network. And Chuck, what we drinking on today?
That Cavassier.
That old school, that Cavassier.
Yes, sir.
It's always nice to go back to what you're comfortable with, what you know, what you can sit over here and just sips down your throat. And you know what? I found a great deal on a gallon bottle of Cavassier, so we can get busy on that for a while.
Yes, sir.
So, super fired up. This is the NFL draft season. And this off season is going so fast. In the NFL, it can be dragging on. But the NFL has done a great job in sitting over here and layering. You got the free agency we got to talk about a couple months ago. Now we go into this draft. It was absolutely phenomenal this past week. And it's so great to sit over and watch these teams that sit over and everybody has aspirations that they're going to be better than they were from the year before. And let me tell you something, this draft did not sit over here.
It didn't disappoint.
It felt good. You know what I'm saying? There are a lot of great teams that we're going to talk about today. And there's that obvious bullshit that we're going to talk about as well with Pennix. So, before we even get into the whole Pennix deal, I'm sure y'all have all heard about the Pennix and the draft choice and the number 8 selection. So I'm going to sit over here and school y'all. I got a big diatribe about that, talk with you about that.
Yes, sir.
To sit over here and flush out the bullshit and what's real about that situation. But let's talk about all the other unbelievable draft picks. And I know you want to sit over here and get started with your Raiders.
Hey, man, but before I do, man, let's get this toast.
Yeah, let's get this toast.
Let's get it going. Yes, sir.
I'm ready to sip some today.
I got it. You got to have it.
So with your Raiders, what you think about the picks? I thought they was phenomenal, but I want to hear what you think because that's your squad.
Hey, I think the biggest thing about the Raiders for me is I always wonder, man, where the fuck are we going?
Right.
Where is this direction taking us? I have no freaking clue at all. And that's the shit that kills me. But at the end of the day, this year at least, I had an understanding that, we want to be a physical football team. We want the identity of the team to match the coach, to match the GM. And I think from the top down, I could at least understand where we were going. Where in the past, I used to be like, dude, it seems like everybody's disconnected. So you might want one thing, the GM might want one thing, the owner might want one thing, and it's obvious that y'all ain't really on the same page.
On a line. And also they was like drafting for need, and sometimes they would overdraft players like Keelan Farrell, for example. He was a decent player, but he shouldn't have been drafted where he was drafted.
Close.
And just because they had a need for an edge rusher, and then so you get a subpar edge rusher far before
he should have been.
He should have been drafted. Right.
Nah, I think that's a big thing. I also believe that the picks that they made sense as far as, like I said, the identity of what you want the team to be. We want to be a smash mouth team. We want to run the ball. And then we want to go ahead and play defense behind it. I think the consistency as far as what we can build behind it is going to be cool. I think your boy is he's supposed to be the truth. He's supposed to be one of the best tight ends that come out of the draft, And that gets said about a lot of players. And that's the tough thing about it is you got to hear about the next best great thing that's going to come along. And you're like, oh my
generational
God. Exactly. Everybody's the next best thing. It's like, come on, man, stop gassing these dudes up. Let them just be who they are, and let's see what happens.
I love that.
You're comparing them to players, and I'm like, you're setting the bar so damn high. It's like, man, who can reach that?
Right.
That's so much pressure. Give them a chance to develop, and let's see where they are in a couple of years. And then maybe you can say, hey, well, this guy might have a chance. Actually, he's had a chance to put some film, on tape for you to see where he's actually going. But I like the Bowers pick. I think he offers some versatility. He's a tough cat. He has great hands. He's shown that he can get open. He was productive in a tough conference, which I always going to give you credit for. He's not injury prone. And, everybody's looking for the next Gronk these days. And who can be, that security blanket as far as what a quarterback needs, Mr. Dependable.
And why wouldn't you? You know what I'm saying? Looking for the next Gronk. I mean, Gronk was a Hall of Famer.
He was.
Somebody special.
He was.
And I can tell you this, from a college perspective, Bowers had a career as lauded collegiately as Gronk had professionally.
True.
I mean, he's won all the awards consistently for 4 years straight. You know, he was Pitts' little brother when Pitts was coming out of Georgia, and he took over that mantle and
ran
smashed
with it.
and ran with it. So, you know, a lot of people, you know, said, well, why do you pick 2 tight ends, you know, back to back? Well, Mayer?
Yeah, Mayer.
Yeah, Mayer sit over here and was lauded as well and considered the best tight end in his class. And so when you have that ability to get 2 tight ends and play 2 tight end sets, doesn't mean they have to both be on the line, but have 2 tight end sets, very talented, top of their drafts in their position, you know, being on the same team. And what makes that work, in my opinion, is that it couples with what the team has already said they want to do, which, like you said, is smash mouth. And so when you have those 2 big players, you have the people on the outside. They just sat over here and signed who they signed?
Michael Gallup.
Michael Gallup, who's coming off of a year of recovery. Like, you know, he was healthy last year with the Cowboys, but it always takes you a year to really be comfortable with that knee and what have you. Yeah, and so I think that was a phenomenal pick. I think Tom Telesco, who was never known as a great drafter with the Chargers, I think he did a much better job. I think he's looked back and kind of reinvented itself in terms of a draft.
You got to grow
and grow. And I think he did that with the Raiders, which is a great thing. And you know, I walked away from the Raiders class not saying it's the very best draft class, but it unequivocally wasn't the worst. I think it's in the top half of the league, and so I'm excited for the Raiders.
Nah, I'm excited for them as well. Like I said, this is for the first time in a long time. I'm like, oh, I can understand your direction, and I understand the identity that you're trying to build and the direction that you're trying to go in. So at least I can say I'm rolling with you in a sense where, you know, everybody wants the sexy pick. Everybody wants, you know, I want the 4-2 guy, or I want the, you know, the best, the top receiver, or, you know, whoever's the most sexy player coming out there. But as far as me this year, I'm like, okay, you know, I can live with this, not be, you know, walking around stomping my feet like, what in the hell, you know, what was he doing this year? Because I've had a lot of that as far as Raider first round picks killing me.
Now, how do you feel about the Raiders not coming out of this draft with a quarterback?
You know, I think it was all about being strategic as far as if you were going to get a quarterback. I don't think you could afford to give up the farm in order to move up to get one of these dudes. Because for me, I feel like maybe I'm only confident maybe in the top, maybe 2. Okay. And then everything else, it gets a little different. I thought, you know, maybe Pennix a little higher than maybe a Drake May. Yeah, Drake May, of course. So I feel like at the end of the day, once you kind of get past that top 3, spending big money or big draft picks, I wouldn't have done it. Not this year. I would have waited, you know, rather wait. Maybe you do get Shador. Maybe, you know, who knows what happens next year as far as the draft is concerned. But if I'm gonna spend, you know, big draft picks and give up 2 firsts and a second, you know, that crazy, you know,
it has to be for that.
It has to make sense. You know, it has to add up. And I don't think it just made a lot of sense as far as once you made it past the top 3, maybe it gets a little iffy for, you know, so I wouldn't have done it. I'm not mad at him.
Well, what was interesting is ownership gave management an opportunity to go up and get one if they could. Obviously, there was some thresholds there, like don't exceed this, you know, don't give away 3 first round
can't
picks.
Give up too much capital.
But they did try to go do it. They felt that Pennix was the cat for them, and they weren't able to find the right trade partner to get ahead of Atlanta to actually make that that pick come to fruition. And I always said, if this team does not get a quarterback this year, if they go into this season with Ayton and with what's the other cat that they just got?
Gardner Minshew.
With Gardner Minshew, which, you know, Gardner Minshew is always fun to watch. Ayton, I think there's something there, but he's still a late round quarterback. So I don't know if he's actually the franchise quarterback, but I did say that if they did not get a quarterback in this draft, you can write it down and take a picture. They're going to go after one next year. Now, you know, I don't know if this team has necessarily the ability to make the playoffs this year. Not that they don't have a team ensemble to do so, but the AFC as a whole is, you know, just as strong as we perceived it as last year. But I do believe that they can be extremely competitive. I do believe that they are from that division. When you're talking about the Chiefs, the Raiders, the LA Chargers, and the Denver Broncos, I think they're the second best team in that division. I can't wait to see Pierce come out of this next season with a better record than the hardballs that everybody think is some god. And let's not disrespect hardball. He has a record of success.
He does.
But I do believe that maybe some of his thought process is a little bit antiquated. When you're going run heavy and the rest of the league is looking to, and we saw this from the draft, looking to turbo boost the offense, I think that he's going against the grain, and I think that could be a detriment. And I think he might not have evolved and added more tools to his tool belt when you're trying to do the same thing that you did from 10 years ago. And then we have what's my man from Denver?
Sean Payton.
Sean Payton, having the audacity to think that Bo Nix is going to be the quarterback to bring him to relevancy, then bring the Broncos to relevancy in a division that has Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah.
But I think what both of those coaches will have the respect of their teams, right? And respect is one thing, but being willing to run through a brick wall, be willing to stand up and say, if this ain't the coach, I'm not playing for this team anymore.
Right.
That's a different type of passion that the players for Antonio Pierce have for him than the respect that the players from those other teams have. So if I'm a betting man, I'm betting on the Raiders being the number 2 team coming out of that division. Again, don't know if that's enough to get into the playoffs, but I do know that's enough, in my opinion, to beat the other 2 teams other than Kansas City in that division. What do you think about that?
Man, hey, I'm going to Vegas. So just let y'all know, I'm going to Vegas. I'm gonna place me a little, over and under bet on the Raiders because I feel like we are always underestimated as far as the wins and losses. So I'm gonna go ahead and place me a little bet. Me and G Money, we gonna place this a little bit. Guaranteed.
Get G Money out there. Hey,
man, all the time.
Let me know where you're going because I might have to go with you because obviously I got to bet on that. But I'm gonna put people up on game and just tell you what my bet is, and I'm just gonna brag about it once it hits. But I've told you, I've told G, I've told my son that if the Raiders didn't get a quarterback in this year's draft, the quarterback they're going to be getting is Shador Sanders.
I think so.
And so I'm going to be going and put a nice sizable bet on Shador Sanders to the Raiders. Sit over here and win me a quick $15,000, $20,000, and then we're gonna really act a fool out there. I can promise you that.
I think he's going number 1. So
and then
it's gonna be tough.
But that pick, well, shit, then
it'll be worth it. Huh?
It's like with Caleb. If Chicago was willing to deal Caleb, would they take 3 first rounders? Absolutely. And the ownership gave them permission to do that. I believe next year's first round pick won't be necessarily seeking a quarterback. It might be a quarterback that was injured. It might be just a team that's still developing. But I think that the Raiders can position themselves to get Shador. I think that makes sense for Shador. We already heard with his father, what Prime said, Coach Prime said, that he wasn't just going to let his son go any place. And so he never mentioned the Raiders specifically, but again, it's Las Vegas. And you have a team that in Las Vegas that you have a quote unquote cash poor. They're not super uber billionaires. They need to sit over here and find a way to generate money. And the Sanders family has done nothing but generate money wherever they've been to. So I just look at that. Shador, who is Hollywood, who is Showtime, who is galvanizing and exciting. I see that being a perfect matchup for Las Vegas,
absolutely,
and the Raiders. And I'm going to bet that's going to be the hookup there.
I ain't mad because if Vegas ain't nothing else, it's definitely Showtime.
It's definitely Showtime. Now let's kind of talk about my team. I'm a Kansas City Chiefs fan. Now, I can't say I grew up a Kansas City Chiefs fan like you grew up a Raiders fan. But what I can say is that since Patrick Mahomes has been there, and I had my ear to the ground and knew that he was going to be something special, and drafted him on my fantasy team in his first starting year,
Oh, you
and,
caught that? You
and
caught that wave?
I caught that wave, and
Ooh.
everybody was mad, and I'm in a keeper league, and
He ain't
everybody
been
was so mad they
nowhere.
sat over here and made us redraft because they was like it's unfair, but I think Kansas City, in terms of the picks that they did, they got my man Worthy.
Mm-hmm.
I think they brought a lot of speed to the team. I know we have some issues with Rice. I'm expecting maybe a 4-game, at best case scenario, 2-game, but probably a 4-game suspension. So it's not too long. They just sit over and re-up Travis Kelce. So hopefully he has some new energy and getting excited about the opportunity to three-peat. And I think Worthy in that speed is going to allow Patrick Mahomes to fill in those gaps in these zones that they're being confronted with, because they're not allowing the big play. This is not happening. But if you can get people that are super fast in space, and then you have Travis Kelce as like the outlet, like both of them are handled. Boom, Travis. One of them got to be open. And if they want to double Travis, then these two cats got one-on-ones, and they have enough speed to sit over here and make it happen, along with Rice, who is kind of like a Travis Kelce. So you got Travis Kelce and Rice kind of like just the cats that are getting open. You got the other two cats, Hollywood and Worthy, that are there to sit over here. And if they are not being doubled, then they're going to be open with that speed. I think that's a very dynamic, like, defenses are going to have to make hard choices.
Absolutely.
And you can sleep on Kelce if you want and say, I'm not going to double him anymore. I'm going to sit over here and just play straight up on everybody. And if you do that, then somebody is going to get loose every single time. You double somebody, then the other three have action. So I think they have the correct dynamic to sit over here and continue their trek to really specialness. I can't think of another team that's actually, no team in the NFL has ever three-peated. So I think we have some history making opportunity coming out here. And Brett Veach, the GM, does a tremendous job.
Absolutely.
So he's put this team together. The ensemble is phenomenal. And I think it's going to be another Chiefs year.
You thinking that? I think what you're saying is pretty true. I think they put some great pieces to the puzzle together as far as what they had last year, looking to what they got this year. I think it's night and day. Hollywood, as long as he can stay healthy, that dude is he's very talented. You add that with Worthy, so now you get the opportunity to stretch the field, and you already have Kelce, who was always able to eat underneath, as well as Rice is able to eat underneath. So. Ooh, yeah, man, they've loaded, and I see the gap, kind of get a little wider between them and us, and I'm a little salty because I was like, how you just gonna let them get the 4-2, dude?
I know. You got to blame the Bills on that. The Bills continue to give up the booty. They gave up the booty and did that trade with Kansas City to get Mahomes, and they've given up the booty again to sit over and allow them to get Worthy. So.
It's crazy. It's crazy. So I mean, and the thing is, he Mahomes has already showed you I can win it with not having a whole lot of nothing. Just me and give me something. That can
you
catch
still
the
got
ball.
Tony there,
and you still exactly. So it's like adding these pieces to what he already has. I think it could be a problem. I think the league is not even really paying attention to these issues. Like I think, like I said, if these dudes can just stay healthy, because Hollywood has always had injury issues. Worthy has had a little injury issues as well in college, but he has shown last year that he can stay healthy.
And he can bounce back.
Right. And the thing is, Mahomes he can make it where he just finds a way to make the pieces of the puzzle, fit together somehow. Man, I was just like, damn, like for real, is this what we gonna do?
It's gonna be tough.
It's gonna be tough.
It's gonna be tough in that AFC.
It's gonna be tough. So, and the pieces they fit. You know what I'm saying? So you have people that go deep. You have people that run fast. You have the possession receiver. You have the tight end who works everything underneath, who's extraordinarily gifted at it. So the pieces fit together with the running game. Who Pacheco, I don't love him, but he gets the job.
You don't love him? I love a cat that runs angry.
No, I give him that. That's what I'm saying. So from a talent perspective, I don't look at him as the greatest.
No,
cat
he's not the most talented.
But as far as what he brings to the team, and as far as what they need,
yes.
Oh man, that dude he gets the job done. I respect him for that. I just don't love his athletic ability. Like he's not a Saquon. He's not not one of these young cats like the cat from Detroit, the young guy. That's not what he does. Right. But from what he does, he gives the Chiefs exactly what they need as far as the moment is concerned. So that's what I'm saying. The pieces of the puzzle fit together well for them. And when you got Mahomes in the middle, as far as being the sun and everybody orbiting around him, it's crazy. It's crazy that they are able to do it and put this together that quick. And they were killing them. Like, dude, you didn't give Mahomes no weapons. Right. Like, what are you doing?
And they still won it.
They still won.
That has to be scary for the league when this cat won with really. You had a rookie, right? You had a rookie in Rice. You had you had
Stanley.
I mean, MVS is horrible. But you had the tight end declining. We've seen a decline in just he's getting older. He's taking a lot of hits. Travis Kelce is declining. So when you have a declining Kelce, you have a wide receiver ensemble that dropped more passes than anybody else in the league.
Crazy.
You had a rookie wide receiver that ended up being your best wide receiver.
Which is crazy.
And they still won back-to-back championships. And then you bring in this new, fresh talent. You got to say that Brown is a much more higher caliber player than MVS that he's replacing.
Absolutely.
You bring in Worthy that I gotta believe is better than Watson and the what's my man that came from the Giants that was dropping everything.
Tony.
So they've upgraded this group, this position group. And that was really what they were lacking. So it's going to be very interesting. But, before we jump over to the NFC, because both of us love AFC teams, is there any other AFC team that you believe really did themselves a service in this past draft?
As far as the AFC is concerned, I would have to say... that's a good question. What would be my favorite?
Let me give you one. I'll just give you one while you still come think of. I think Pittsburgh did a phenomenal job.
Absolutely.
In terms of fortifying, I mean, they went heavy and hard on the line. That was their big problem. That was kind of the one position group that was holding them back. But still sitting over and finishing over 500. But I think that was the one position group that was holding them back. And for them to go very heavy in the draft with them, also to pick up boy from Michigan, the wide receiver, the top wide receiver from Michigan.
Yeah, I know you're talking about.
And they're very good graders of wide receivers. Yeah, so you have Pickens. He's a perfect complement to Pickens. They have some other wide receivers that were young, that were second tier wide receivers that have had some time to get some seasoning. And so when you look at that team, they brought in quarterbacks with either Russ. I think Seattle. I think the Pittsburgh Steelers are a team that everybody better watch out for, because I think when you have, they're going to be able to find a real deal quarterback either between Russ buying into their system and being able to get acclimated to it, or he does it and he kind of does the same thing that he's been doing for the last 2 years, and then that gives room for Fields that is just chomping at the bit for his opportunity with a team with weapons, with a team that has good leadership, and that chip on his shoulder for his kind of being discarded, and watching a team do everything for his successor, but didn't do anything for him. I think he has a huge chip on his shoulder. So I think this is a team that is going to do more than surprise, and going to do some social just with how they drafted. But anybody come to mind?
No, I know, but I want to double down on that Pittsburgh pick, because they got I forgot the linebacker's name from NC State, but he's like one of my favorite players to watch. I'm a Florida State Seminole fan, and I watch him play, every year. And this dude is an animal, and he's an animal.
perfect for
He's
them.
perfect for them,
And now you give them two because you get the whole boy that they got from the Ravens.
Oh yeah. So oh my goodness, I forgot his name. But I know, Queen. Yeah.
So you got Queen, and then you got him,
and them, they can run, and they can
that's
move.
what they've been missing in that defense. That defense has their linebackers have been janky since Shazier got hurt.
True.
They haven't been able to really find that individual to come in. So you have those two individuals out of the three linebackers.
Nah, it's crazy. It's crazy because you already know what Pittsburgh's lineage is. This is what they do as far as having defensive players and linebackers. This is what they pride themselves on. So it's crazy when I saw the pick and I was like, dude, I hope the Raiders can get this dude. And he was sliding in the draft because dude, he doesn't have an ACL in his knee.
Yeah.
And Pittsburgh
he's
had
still
Hines
giving
Ward.
the business.
But the thing is, Pittsburgh has Hines Ward who didn't have an ACL in his knee. So of course
and gave the business.
Yeah, and he gave the business for a long year. And they talking about, well, this dude might only be a one contract player. But I'm like, if he can give you 5 years at what I saw him do in college, he was extraordinary. He was really, he ran 4.4. So I mean, running 4.4, you a white dude, you a linebacker, hey, and you're still physical and you know how to play the game. I was like, wow, like this dude is an athlete. Like I watched him play. It wasn't like one of these dudes who just happened to test great. Nah,
you played linebacker in high school.
No,
right?
I played corner and safety.
Okay.
So, but my thing is to watch people
who
are
appreciate it and respect it, and you understand. Right?
It's the fluidity of the game, how easy it is for you to move, to transition out your breaks and be able to, step your feet, on the ground and go. Like he has it. And I watched him and I was like, dude, this dude is incredible. He was ACC Defensive Player of the Year. So I was like,
no ACL,
man, with no ACL, right. and it was no problem. Like he showed, he was all over the field. He was an animal. So I doubled down on that Pittsburgh. I think they had a great draft. I think they stayed true to their identity. I think they filled needs, but at the same point in time, they got better.
Without a doubt, they got
better. And I think a lot of teams struggle to do that because you're trying to fill a need, but it doesn't really make you better. But did you draft the best player available? And I think they made the best combination of the two as far as addressing what they really needed, and also getting the best player damn near available at the position when it came time for them to do what
draft,
they do. Exactly. So I think that's if I was to say a team, I think Pittsburgh probably would be who I would agree with you.
Anybody else you got?
In the
I got
AFC,
one other team.
In the AFC, who else you was talking about in the AFC?
Who I just think helped themselves. I like what the Jets did. I think they were very active in the draft. I think they did a lot of trades. I have to give respect. I can't think of his name, but give respect to the GM, who I've been very critical of, but I think he did a great job in terms of kind of solidifying the team's needs and getting ready for Rodgers coming back off of injury, even though I just don't think it might be enough because, again, when you're talking about a 40-year-old quarterback, and we're going to talk about that, an older quarterback coming off of a ruptured Achilles, I don't have high hopes in terms of them returning and playing in the same fashion they did prior to the injury. Miami, who needed a lot of help, but I think they did a great job in terms of kind of fulfilling those needs that they have. They suffered a lot of injuries last year, and I think they got players that are going to complement those injuries, those injured players when they come back to be competitive. I think they got added even more speed. They got a great wide receiver in the late round that for whatever reason dropped, but the cat from West Virginia, if I'm not mistaken, that's going to be a great player to complement with their two speedsters on the outside. But really, who I like coming out of the AFC is Tennessee. A lot of people are sleeping on Tennessee. Tennessee has been extremely active in this offseason. They've gotten a great batch of free agents to help their second-year quarterback. I think they did a great job in terms of solidifying offensive tackle with Latham in the draft. I think they did a great job in terms of some of the other players that they got in the draft. I look at Tennessee to have a quick turnaround. A lot of people are hating on Tennessee for what they've been able to do. And to be perfectly honest with you, I'm optimistic about New England. I think if the Jets falter, New England's going to have an opportunity. I mean, that's going to be a kind of a dogfight division because all of them are great. When you have the Dolphins, the Bills, the Patriots, and the Jets, none of them are great, but one team is going to come out of there excelling. And I think it's a team that's going to have the opportunity to be the healthiest. I think it's going to be the team that the people that they pick from the draft are going to be able to contribute the most. You have some teams with a great quarterback. You have some teams with great weapons. You have some teams with great defenses. I can't wait to see how this overall division formulates itself as we go through the season. But I think whoever does come out of there is going to be a team to be reckoned with. Because I think they're going to be seasoned. After coming out, because everybody has the opportunity to be good. Everybody has the opportunity to give up them cheeks. And so I think the team that remains good, we saw Miami, and I like on Fox Sport, I can't even think of the show's name, with Nick Wright, one of the contributors, calls them breakdancers because they just did great on offense, but they kind of gave up the ass, but that was due to injury.
Right.
So, all these teams are going to be are reinventing themselves out of the AFC East, and I think the team that reinvents themselves the best is going to have some ruckus. I think outside of the Patriots, all three of the teams all three of the four teams are a lot better than what we kind of are casting upon them of who they are. Outside of the Patriots, which I think have a long way to go. I think they took big strides into getting there through the draft and the offseason because they had a lot of money to play with. I still think they're a year away, but I still respect what they've done to kind of get back into the game. But I really think this is a three-headed horse in terms of who is going to, through attrition, going to be healthiest at the end of the year. The Jets, the Miami, and the Bills, and who is elevated their team. I think the Bills maybe elevated their team the least, but they still have Josh Allen. I think Miami has some very critical injuries that should be back, and so it comes back to how will those players play when they come back? And then I look at the Jets. I think from a totality standpoint, their GM did a great job in the draft in terms of stepping back, accumulating more picks, and they got a bunch of picks. I think he did a great job in terms of the picks that he has, and so each one of their functions are different. Who was able to sit over here and really bring it all together to create an efficient and productive season is going to be interesting to come out of it.
I agree. I think that division is up for grabs as far as I'm concerned. I think you have, the Bills who are in flux. No telling where they're going to go. You're relying you're relying on a rookie to be your number one receiver at this point.
And he's not even that good. He can't even get open.
I mean, and I always say, let me see what happens on the field, and always try to give people the benefit of the doubt. Now, if I've seen you on the field, then I'm gonna lay my opinion. I'm gonna go hard in the paint on you. But I'm gonna say, hey, I haven't seen you in the league. I don't know what you're gonna look like, so let's see it. But at the end of the day, for me, the division is up for grabs because, like I said, you got the Bills in flux. You have, the Jets that are trying to transition back to bringing Aaron Rodgers and seeing what he can bring to the table and how he can elevate the team. You have Miami, who has suffered a lot on defense, and the defense wasn't their problem. Offense wasn't their problem. No. Defense was their problem.
Right.
You lose both your pass rushers. You lose your D tackle who came to the Raiders. Appreciate y'all. And you lose one of your corners who was the stalwart on your team. He's probably one of the longer tenured veterans on your team. And Howard, he had been the man for a long time for you. So
who did he sign with? You remember? Has he signed yet? I don't even think he might not even signed yet.
Not, but I thought he might have signed just recently.
Which shows you how much there's a lot of action still out there in terms of players like a Howard that are still out there that can really help affect the team.
True. But when people quote unquote say you're losing a step, you get scrutinized a little differently. I feel like when you lose a step or two, you're under a different type of scrutiny. So as far as being picked up, people are going to wait on a little bit on you to see as far as where you're going to fit. But I think that Miami has a chance to ascend as far as that division is concerned.
When
Only
you
for
have an
me, because
offensive
you have
players
offense.
like that,
Because
yes.
you do, and you got to ride this out because Tyreek ain't getting no younger. It's not
Right,
like he's
right,
he's 20 anything.
right.
He's in his 30s at this point, so you're only going to be able to ride that for so long. But I think you have a great core of players as far as offensively what you bring to the table. I think defensively you had some young players. Unfortunately, they got hurt with Phillips. And then also Chubb. Chubb ended up getting hurt too. And then you lose Wilkins in your D tackle position. So I think the division, like I said, it's in flux right now. Who knows?
Who knows?
If the Jets can have a decent offense, they would have won 12 games last year, to be honest with you. So we'll see. We'll see.
Who's the most competitive division in the AFC, especially after this draft, because there's some teams that definitely help themselves is the AFC South. And they always get overlooked because just 2 years ago, they were by far, or one of the NFC South and the AFC South were by far the two worst divisions in all of football.
True.
But when we look at what's is just 2 years of new quarterbacks, they have some new quarterbacks, and they've just brought some new life. So I've been known to be on Twitter and not really be a big fan of Indy's GM. But I can say this, the last 2 years he's done a great job. I think he did a great job this year with the defensive edge or the edge from UCLA, Latu. I think he did a great job with A.D. Mitchell. I think he's done a phenomenal job in drafting this year, setting up his team for their second-year quarterback that's coming, Anthony Richardson, that's coming off of injury. I think, obviously the Texans are primed and set up to sit over here and possibly be the first or second best team in all of the conference.
Absolutely.
I've already talked about Tennessee that's doing a phenomenal job. So, and then we have the Jaguars that Balky didn't have the greatest draft when it comes to who he drafted compared to where they were projected to be drafted at. But I think he covered some glaring needs when Ridley didn't sign back with him and so on and so forth. So, I'm a little bit concerned for Trevor Lawrence and the Jaguars. I don't know if they got enough to compete. I don't know if it was a strong enough draft to keep them at the top of that, or one of the top players in that particular division. But the Texans, I think, when you have a quarterback like they have with Stroud, it's kind of like just like with Mahomes. I think I can't wait to see him being year number 2. Unfortunately, Tank got shot this past week. Crazy. Luckily, when I saw that, my heart dropped. Literally, I was with my wife walking to the car, and I saw the blurb, and literally my heart dropped. Luckily, it was just superficial, not a real serious injury, so he'll be all right, especially with him coming off of that broke leg. But I'm super excited to see what the Texans do. I'm super excited to see what the Titans do. I'm super excited to see what Indianapolis does. And again, the team that can come out of that division healthiest, and their new picks out of this draft perform at a level that the team expected of them, I think that's going to be a behemoth coming out of this, out of this division. So super excited about the AFC South.
I like the AFC South. Speaking of the Jags, I like the Brian Thomas pick. I think it fits a glaring need they had with losing Calvin Ridley. And I think it helps to always have a young player who brings that, that youth, that energy that's just a little bit different from everybody else. He proved to be a good receiver in college, playing, next to Neighbors. I think, he didn't. It wasn't like you could overlook him at any point, in time. He led the nation, I believe, in touchdown receptions, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
So that shows that he's definitely a big play guy. He was trustworthy. He ran a great 40 time, has good size. So as far as what they need to complement what they have, you already have a great tight end, in Ingram. And then the other receiver that they still have, I forget his name, but he still was good. The guy that came over from Arizona the year before last.
Yeah.
But I'm sorry, as far as the
Mhm.
pieces, like I said, when the pieces of the puzzle make sense, you already have a good running back. So offensively, they're there.
I
Defensively,
think
they're
there's
there.
something there. I don't know if there's enough glue to bring it all together.
I don't feel like they have the same. I think D'Amico Ryans is just a different
galvanizer.
Yeah, he guys want to run through brick walls for that guy, and you can tell those type of coaches when you see it, they get a little bit more out of the talent than most people could in that same position.
Pierce is cut from the same
cut
cloth.
from that same cloth. Like guys is really willing to I'll die for you out there,
Right.
coach. And I think when players play with that type of mentality, you can definitely tell it's just a little different.
Right.
And I think that's the problem that the Jaguars have. For whatever reason, whoever they brought in, it hasn't really, they brought in kind of sort of, but not that blind faith. Like I'm rolling.
It's no reckless abandon. It's like
remember
300.
Exactly.
It's none of that. It's all like, okay, let's go.
Yeah, it's a
limit.
Right. You can tell that there's a limit as far as where they're going. They're not willing to put it all on the line. But I love the talent. When we talk about talent, I love Jacksonville. I love what they have out there.
Do you think I love coaches last year? Like you got to get them going. You got to get Trevor Lawrence going. You got to propel this team to the next level. We got to see somebody else. Do you think that's where the coach is at?
I think it's getting close to that point. You're gonna have to make some type of change.
Right. Something has to change.
Something has to give. And the thing about and the crazy thing about the league is the last thing that's going to change is the players. The coach is always going to go first, unless you are made man. Right. If you're not one of those select few,
like a Belichick for 20 years.
or Mike Tomlin, or one of these guys, Andy Reid. No, you're gonna go. You're gonna go first. So, I could see them making a change as far as doing something dramatic that might change it because you figure last year they were a shoe in to make the playoffs. And somehow, some way, you lose all kind of games that you weren't supposed to lose.
But just like Philly, and just like Philly. So speaking of that, from an NFC perspective, we talked a lot about the AFC. From an NFC perspective, who was that one team that really, rocked the draft?
I would have to say Philly. They went bananas.
They went bananas, and this ain't their first rodeo going bananas. And it's so funny that the GM sometimes he just sits back and waits for it to come to him. Other times he sits over here and makes shit happen. You got to remember he had 9 trades in this draft. The next closest had 7. That was the Jets. He had 9 trades to sit over here and maneuver around that draft to get some unbelievable players. He got the number 1 cornerback. He got the People's Choice cornerback.
Which is crazy.
In the Gene, who's probably not a cornerback, but a safety.
Whatever he's
very
play.
high quality player. His cachet allowed him to get a player that nobody really knows about. But it's supposed to be super phenomenal edge linebacker cat coming from Texas Christian that everybody's excited about. Just talking about he was just the most dominant player anybody's ever seen, and that if he can bring that to the NFL, it's game over. Super excited about Philly. I love Philly. I love just what they, from a team perspective, in terms of how it's always next man up and let's make it happen. They're always kind of ahead of the curve. And we've seen it again this year's draft. So I agree with you. Yeah, Philly was cracking.
Nah, that's a bananas. You figure you get the quote unquote number 1 corner in the draft, and then you get quote unquote, like you said, the people's probably number 1 corner in the draft.
Right.
Back to back. You get those. Those are your first 2 picks. I even like the Shipley pick from Georgia.
So you like Shipley?
I'm not saying I think he's
everybody been over here. Shipley.
Nah. I'm gonna keep it 100. Like I don't think he's gonna go out here and be a gangbuster or nothing. But I think to complement Saquon and what you have, because I expect Saquon not to be taking no downs off.
Right.
At the Heat, you're gonna be out there. But to have a guy who proved to be productive.
Forget about Saquon when we go through this. A free agency that was a month ago. People forget about Saquon. All these the great pieces that they've added.
Mhm.
And forget about Saquon is there in the mix.
Nah, you can't forget. I feel like he's like the fucking queen on the board.
Right.
Like he is the monster because everything is gonna start with him. So you can't forget about Saquon. But like I said, as far as how the picks are fitting together, it was clear, at the end of the day that their defense was lacking. And
was it the defensive players that were lacking? Was it the defensive coach? Or coaches, because they had multiple coaches in the season that was lacking? Was it the scheme? What do you think was?
I think it was the pieces of the puzzle. Like I think as
They
far
just
as having
didn't fit.
the flexibility to deal with multiple situations, they
Right.
didn't have. I feel like they could always rush the passer, but you still got to be able to play the run.
Right.
Or, you still got to be able to cover, you know what I'm saying? But you got to be able to, have different pieces of the puzzle to be able to make it work, like make it look different. You can't have, you can't come with the same bland seasoning that you've been coming with, because eventually the league is going to adjust.
Right.
Oh, okay, we found him. This is the why we need to attack. So we're going to attack him. Boom. We're going to score some points. Then we're going to break down the whole concept of your defense. So for me, I feel like at the end of the day, yes, I think they made some great picks. I think, going corner heavy, and I'm looking forward to seeing what Cooper DeJean does. Like, I'm not, like I said before, for me, I want to see the guy on the field first before I knock you. I seen him in college. I seen what he did.
I want to see where they're going to place him.
Yeah,
at.
but
I don't even know where they're going to place him at. And if they place him at corner, you can write down and take a picture. He's going to get cooked.
Nah. So this is what I look at it. I'm not comparing them, saying this is mirroring players. But I remember when the Honey Badger came out, they talked about, are we going to play him at corner? Or are we going to play him at safety? And it was who cares? Who cares about where you're going to play him? Play him somewhere where he's going to be effective.
He's a player.
Yes, he's a player. And maybe you do cover him up in certain type of, maybe there's some things that he can't do. Who cares? But let's play to his strengths and see if that can, make our defense better.
Love it.
So that's the way I'm looking at this dude. Let's see what he does.
Right.
Maybe he is ass. Maybe he can't.
No, I don't think he's ass. I just think they have to get him in the right.
But
they say
put him in the right spot.
They say he's stiff. They say he's stiff in the hips, and that can he really sit over here and cover an individual like a Neighbors? Can he really cover a Neighbors? Can he really cover? I'm trying to look in their division. Can he cover McLaurin?
Right. Do I think he can? Probably not. But that's the coach's job to put him in the best position to succeed at the end of the day. That's your job to do. His job is to play the position. Your job is to find how to make it work. So, for me, yeah, I'm interested in seeing how that dynamic is going to work. But I think that the Eagles, they did a good job as far as addressing their needs, because I looked at their defense last year and I was rather disappointed. And I was looking like, dude, did these dudes get old? Over the course of one season, like you just were in the, Super Bowl competition.
I think that was something internal, because they started off so well, and then you have a straight face plant. You have a straight nosedive in terms of result. And so that's traditionally something that's internal that we'll probably never know what happened, or maybe there's a 30 for 30 10 years from now that talks about what happens. But hopefully, because the team is too talented, the general manager has done too great of a job on putting this team together for the team to perform like how they performed at the end of the year. And I will tell you this, that if the team does not play up to the standard that we all expect, including they expect, we got to look at the coach, because I think the coach kind of got exposed last year, that he's not an offensive juggernaut, even though he was hired as some offensive whiz kid. But I think his offensive coordinator was really that cat that kind of provided that offensive excelling that they were doing. And he went off to Indianapolis and allowed that team to play better than
what we expected. Absolutely.
Than what we expected. So, I think a lot is on his shoulders, but I just love what that team has done. So unequivocally, from an NFC standpoint, I can't lie. Traditionally, we don't see a number one pick that has the opportunity to really come into the NFL and be a juggernaut, be a game changer, be a team that can compete for a high playoff seed. And I think Chicago, and credit to their GM, who came from Kansas City. I think he's done a phenomenal job, even though he failed Justin Fields. I think it takes time to kind of redirect an organization, and I think he's done a phenomenal job finally getting this team pointed in the right direction, getting enough complementary components around the quarterback from an offensive perspective to sit over and catch up to that defense and what they did when he went and got swept. And once they got swept, they were the third best defense in the NFL. And so now you have an offense in the draft. Speaking of the draft, when you get Caleb, who many people believe he is a generational talent. I personally don't. I think they should have kept, and I advocated all last season and at the end of last season, they should have kept Fields. But that didn't happen. They have Caleb, and Caleb's not boo-boo. So we have to look at this and say, with Caleb and what the additions that they've made to the offense in terms of the players that they've brought in free agency, the players that they've brought in Ron Meduzier brought in for as a pass catcher, Eberflus, and that name is just absolutely egregious to me. I think it's a strong call right there. When you got a coach named Eberflus, but Eberflus gotta make it happen. There are absolutely no more excuses that can take place for this team. This is a team that's ready made to make the playoffs. I'm not saying you got to go to the Super Bowl, but what I am saying is that this is a team. And what's crazy is that they're in a division. We got Green Bay, who's ascending. You got the Lions, who have ascended, and now it's up to them to maintain that with a phenomenal GM and a phenomenal coach. And you have, in my opinion, the Vikings, which are ascending not at the same rate as the other teams, but are ascending. This is the NFC North is very similar to the AFC North. It's a very good division. You have everybody that has action. There's nobody in the AFC North that doesn't have action to win it, let alone come in second place and make the playoffs. Same thing with the NFC North. This is a division that anybody can win it, or at worst case scenario, come in second place and make the playoffs. So I love both of those two divisions, and it's funny. You're going to get down to both of those divisions are aggressive, hands in the ground. Let's go pound them.
Absolutely.
And I love it's real football at its finest. Those two divisions.
Absolutely.
And so I think it's indicative of that Midwesterner type of deal. Smash mouth, this tough weather, and we got to go gangbang. And so I really can't wait to see between both those divisions. Obviously we're talking about the NFC. Which two of those NFC teams can come out of it? Can the Lions maintain?
It's tough.
Can Green Bay maintain?
It's tough.
Can the Chicago Bears elevate?
That's tough.
Can the Vikings get back to where they were just 2 years ago? Like everybody got action. Same thing, just like the AFC North. Who are going to be the two teams that come out of it?
Hey, man, I think the thing about that division, I think the one word that epitomizes what you get is everybody's competing. Like, there's no, where teams like, are you really trying to win? Like, nah, I think all these teams are like, dude, man, everybody's trying to do what they can to win. I think Chicago's put themselves in an elite position. Like, the pieces of the puzzle, again, man, they fit together so well.
They fit together
so well.
But we have to see that. We have to, because I do know their offensive coordinator is not recognized as a great offensive coordinator. Somebody asked the rookie, because he came from Seattle, from the Seattle Seahawks last year, and they asked a rookie wide receiver at the end of the season what they think about him, and he didn't have high praises. And so that's a little bit disconcerting that a rookie wide receiver who was, and you're talking about Jigba.
Smith.
Smith, coming from Ohio State. who was a recognized and
Yeah, he was highly
decorated,
touted.
not having high praise
True.
for this offensive coordinator that had similar
He did.
talents
He had
available
weapons.
to him.
He had weapons.
So the scary thing is again, have they gone to the shallow end of offensive coordinators and not gone to the deep end and found some, some real champions? Only time will tell. But
Nah, like I said, I think they did an excellent job. I think grabbing a receiver from Washington who only complements what they already have with Keenan Allen.
it all works together.
It all works together. So you just need that piece to be able to that thing to be able to pull that trigger to be able to make it happen.
And Caleb is that.
And Caleb
is supposed he better to be. He's supposed to be. He's come out and said all the
good thing,
all the big balls thing.
True.
He's acting like his balls is 10 pounds. And guess what? Hey, what I love about it is, because I kind of do the same thing, I'm going to speak on what I'm going to do to be held accountable. I hope he's saying all of these things because he wants to be held accountable to that.
But the bar has already been set. The fact that C.J. Stroud did what he did last year, it only puts more pressure on him to be able to do, because it's like, what? So what is your excuse? Is your excuse that you didn't have the weapons?
But he's not running from it. That's what I love.
No.
The church
he's a
let's go. I love when he got drafted, when everybody talked all that bullshit about he doesn't want to go to the Bears and let's go. Get me fired up.
He hasn't said nothing.
I love it.
Since,
He hit the punter that they drafted and said,
"Hey, you ain't playing.
Don't get hyped. Don't get hyped.
We ain't gonna be out here."
Like that shit resonates with me.
Right.
Let's go.
I'm rolling.
But you got to do it, because I talk shit like that in my professional life. That was very competitive. I executed.
You got to back it up.
Did it.
You got to back it up.
And so, I've given my concerns with him prior, but when I see that, I'm willing to sit over and give him the benefit of the doubt. I was like, he's going to miss Stone Cold. And we've discussed that about the challenges that I think he might have. But when somebody comes with that much bravado, that much confidence, I respect that. Because you can't fake confidence. Either you're confident or you don't.
Not,
And if you try to fake it, it's glaring.
Yeah, it's going to
So I didn't see any fake confidence. I saw a motherfucker like, let's go.
I'm for real.
And that's what gets me excited. Like somebody that's about it, okay.
And I feel like Chicago deserves that. God, y'all have some of the worst quarterbacks ever.
You know why I can't say they don't deserve shit is because leadership brought that. You chose to get Mitch Trubisky instead of Deshaun Watson.
True.
So,
I'm like nobody. I mean, Jim McMahon was garbage at the end of the day. We all know that to be true. But he won a Super Bowl because he played on the greatest defense.
And guess what he had? What he had more than skill set. He had confidence.
He made it look good.
He had
but
confidence.
You had Walter Payton and one of the best.
But he had confidence. And confidence, motherfuckers like Walter Payton and so on and so forth could follow confidence.
True. That's true.
The quarterbacks they've had have not been
trash.
G's.
Rex Grossman.
Now, I wouldn't say trash because they've had some non-trash, but they weren't confident. They weren't the leaders to say, I got to follow this.
Nobody.
And now they have a leader that's saying, hey, toe your shit to me, we're going to go.
Yeah, I got it.
And when you sit over and say that, all you got to do is then just do it.
Yeah.
But that's half the battle is the confidence to say we're going to get there. That's half the battle that them other square cats didn't have in them. Mitch Trubisky wasn't coming in saying, let's go.
And if he was, nobody believed him.
No, he never did it.
Nobody
So we ain't got to talk about nobody believed it. He just never did it.
Nobody believed
And so I'm all about who's willing to sit over and step up and say, I'm going to win. Because that's me as a leader in my professional life was saying, we're going to win, write it down, take a picture. Guaranteed. There's no opportunity and chance we're not. We're going to win. And so that I respect that. That resonates with me. So I love it. So give me another NFC team. One more before I get into my diatribe because I'm starting to get a little.
You ready?
Bit. I'm starting to sit out. I'm ready to go.
Hey man, so I know you're not gonna like this, right? But being the fact that I'm a Florida State Seminole fan, I like what the Rams did. I like the verse.
Reverse? Oh, I thought
I love verse. I like the D tackle right behind him. I like Fisk right behind him. I think as far as which you needed to replace, what you got to look forward to losing, Aaron Donald, it's about to be some dark days on that defense that you're not aware of.
I don't think that. I think they did a great job in terms of setting up.
Oh no! As far as trying to make that transition, yes, but it's going to be a whole lot different from what you're used to and accustomed to. Losing Aaron Donald, because Aaron Donald is one of the greatest defensive players ever to exist.
I mean, I hate to even use the expression "one of." I think we have to kind of talk about him in a way that where we talked about Lawrence Taylor.
No, I think the list is short. I think it's maybe a 5-player list.
I don't think we got to talk about possibly one of the best, but as one of the best, at least in this era.
He is the best defensive player ever in this era.
Right. By far. And possibly in any
And that's
era.
what I'm saying. So we can start there, and then you can go wherever you want to go to.
My concern with this team is, what's Cooper Kupp going to be?
True.
What is the quarterback going to be? The quarterback wants more guaranteed money. Now, see, here's so funny. They asked him to kind of restructure, redo his deal to loosen up some money, and he said no last year. And so they was like, oh, you know what? Church. And then this year, he's like, with one more year left of guarantees, I want an extension on some guarantees.
Give me some more.
And I would have been looking at this motherfucker like, you better get the fuck on up out of here, bud. Because we asked you to restructure. And when you restructure, you don't lose any money.
Yeah, it's just
moving the money around.
Money up front or
and when you sit over here and say you're not willing to move money around so we can get more money to get more players, and then have the nerve the next year to say, I want more guaranteed money, man, let me tell you something. At 30-something and all them injuries, I'd have been looking like, you better get the fuck out of here. You better get on.
I feel you. No, I think what you're saying is true, but I feel like for their current situation, you don't have nothing to really fall back to up until recently. I think did they draft somebody this year? I think they drafted a quarterback this year.
If they did, it was Boo Boo.
I think
nobody real, but it might have been the dude from Duke, but I don't even know if that's the case. But
the thing is, when you're able to leverage your position, you can leverage your position, because really and truly, he was the thing that made that offense go. By far. But he made
Felicia.
He was the reason why you got to go.
If you didn't work with me last year to get you more talent, and then want more money now, when they were trying to trade him last year because he wouldn't work with him, they tried to trade him. I wouldn't give him a single penny. Play this motherfucker out on what you want to do.
I don't see it's gonna happen.
Hardball,
because once you got to have a plan set up to make that transition.
That's
what is the transition? What is the plan?
But guess what? Guess who's gonna be available? Kirk Cousins. We're gonna talk about that in a second. Kirk Cousins.
Yeah. Speaking of your boy.
Yeah. So speaking of Kirk Cousins, and we've been talking, and I don't want to get too long-winded, because we got to get to this. I'm going to be long-winded in this.
Talk to me.
Since the draft, I think everybody knows. The big shit in the draft was Michael Pennix being drafted by the Atlanta Falcons after they had just signed Kirk Cousins to a $180 million deal with $100 million guaranteed.
Mm-hmm.
And every single individual in football, hair was on fire, panties were in a bunch.
Mm-hmm.
They were absolutely afflicted by such a move. And I can tell you and everybody listening to us, let me tell you something. All of that bullshit that you heard was pure, unadulterated cap. Pure, unadulterated cap. And I'm going to go point by point, and I'm going to sit over here and let you know. And let me run with this a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
We have a player who is 36 years old, coming off of an Achilles rupture, getting signed by a team for $180 million for 4 years, $100 million guaranteed.
Hi.
Now, as you and I both know, because we watch this very closely, that was not the general manager's Fontenot's original choice. He was actually ready to sign Justin Fields. As we saw by a video by Justin Fields and his team of him being excited and his agent saying, "Are you ready to go home?" And for those of you that don't know, Justin Fields is from Atlanta.
Absolutely.
And he was so excited. And then all of a sudden, 3 days later, this team was signing Kirk Cousins to a $180 million deal.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the one thing I want to ask you is, imagine if, what's the quarterback for St. Louis or Seattle?
Geno.
Imagine if Geno Smith had ruptured his Achilles at 33, and a team, because Geno was performed as a top 12 or better quarterback in the past 2 years, signed him to a $180 million deal. Is it fair to say there would be nobody that could justify that signing?
At all.
But for whatever reason, the NFL allowed for the justification of the Atlanta Hawks signing Kirk Cousins to a $180 million deal. Not at 33 like
Kirk.
Like no.
Oh, Geno.
Like Geno would. But at 36 years old, like Kurt is. Now, mind you,
talk to me.
I can promise you this. We do know that the general manager had no desire to sign a 36-year-old coming off of an Achilles tendon tear. He wanted to sign Justin Fields, who is a young player still on his rookie deal, and the max payout would have been $25 million in his fifth-year option. So you're talking about a 2-year term. No. The owner said, we must sign Kirk Cousins, partly because he looks just like him, and they over-evaluate each other.
Yeah.
And so you have a general manager that was pigeonholed into signing a player that he knew wasn't the business. And so, to his credit, he sat over here and said, I'm not going to allow my legacy, my tenure as general manager of this team to rest on the laurels of a 36-year-old with a ruptured tendon, Achilles tendon, to sit over here and justify the quality of job that I do.
True.
And so he got together with a brand new coach, Raheem Morris, and they found a quarterback. And so they find a quarterback that they, from a statistical standpoint, just under 10,000 yards throwing in the last 2 years, taking his team to the NCAA national championship game, but lost, and said, this is the quarterback that we're going to draft. And the whole world shit its bed because they signed Kirk Cousins.
True.
So let me tell you about the reaction to this and all of the lies. Number one is, and who they tried to blame. They tried to blame the general manager, on the general manager's shoulders. How could he ever sit over here and get a quarterback 8th after signing a quarterback who was 36 coming off of Achilles, and they signed him to a $180 million deal? Well, first of all, that wasn't his belief. That wasn't his desire. That was the owner's. So for all of you that are sitting over here talking about that $180 million deal means that he couldn't sign, no. What this general manager was preparing for was he was not going to be beholden to a quarterback that has only won one playoff game in his entire career, as if this is the savior for the organization,
Right.
as if a 36-year-old coming off of an Achilles rupture, that this was going to be the same mediocre player. So if he was mediocre before the rupture, what do you expect him to be after the rupture? Probably below mediocre, right? This doesn't take, you don't have to be Einstein to sit over and come to that conclusion.
Right. Yep.
And so because the owner felt that this player looked like him, so that was who he was willing and wanted to pay.
Gamble.
Instead of a better player that didn't look like him, this GM chose not to sit over and allow his legacy, his future employment to rest off of this weak individual. So he picked another individual at the 8th seed. So then everybody says, well, you know, he's a great player, but he wasn't worth the 8th pick. Well, it was announced prior to the 2 weeks to the draft that he was going to be picked in the top 15. And it came out during the draft that there were two teams, the Seahawks and the Raiders, that tried to trade up for him.
True.
So there was no way for this general manager to trade back his picks to pick up this player. He had to pick him there or he was going to lose them. And he was smart enough to sit over and say, I'm going to pick a player who in the past 2 years thrown almost 10,000 yards, the most in the NCAA, got his team to the actual NCAA championship. And what is that called? Winning.
Right.
When is the last time you saw Cousins win? Have you ever seen him win with one playoff game in 10 years that he's won?
That's tough.
So probably he said, I'm not going to sit over here and latch my career to Cousins,
right,
and bring into who they drafted, which is Pennix, who has shown a propensity to win, and who obviously, from every account, has an absolutely phenomenal arm, better arm than that.
That's not even. We don't even talk about that.
Then we don't even got to talk about that. And then so we have everybody up in arms that this general manager brought in a player that he wasn't going to rest his laurels. What happens to a 36-year-old who wasn't mobile, who had an Achilles tendon rupture, that is now going to come back and play? Is it fair to say he might not come back 100% there?
Hey, it happened to Dan Marino. Dan Marino was, all-time great. He blew his Achilles. He come out.
He was never the same again.
You can never be the same.
Is it fair to say that when you have a player that wasn't mobile before and has an Achilles, he's going to be even less mobile, which then lends to the possibility of what? Injury. So is it fair to say that this general manager had the foresight to sit over here and recognize that and say, we don't want to sit over here and be without a quality number 2 just in case he ruptures the other tendon, just in case he's immobile and gets hit
hamstring,
hard, whatever it is that this player can't play. Because what happens if Kirk Cousins gets hurt? They have a Mickey Mouse backup. What happens to that general manager and that coach? Probably they're going to get fired. But everybody is like, oh my God, I can't believe he did that.
But it's crazy, as you say all that, nobody's saying nothing about Green Bay, who did the same exact thing with Aaron Rodgers.
No. They are saying something about that.
But the thing is, it's looking real good now.
It's looking great right now.
It's looking great right now.
So what they're saying is that it's not the same thing, because that was a 20-something pick and then this is an 8th pick.
It makes no difference.
So let me ask you a question. Is it fair to say that Atlanta didn't move up to the 8th pick? That was the pick they were given. Green Bay didn't move up to the 20-something pick. That was the pick that was given.
But the thing is, you got the guy you wanted.
You got the guy that you wanted.
So that's what I look at. Green Bay was always talking about getting love. That was the guy that they were talking about getting. So you got him. He sat in the bench, quote unquote. He didn't play. He's not helping. He didn't. Aaron Rodgers doesn't have more weapons. But you fast forward, it's looking real good about now.
Real good.
You know, like you made the best decision that was good for the organization in itself. So, you know, as I look at that Atlanta pick, I look, you know, what if Kirk gets hurt? What if he gets hurt?
In the next couple of years, expect that he gets hurt.
I expect for him to get hurt. Not at the end of the day, I'm not trying to. I would hate to see an organization have to pay this dude all this money, and you can't even. He's not even translating the wins. But he's never really has.
But it's all right if you have a backup plan with the Patriots.
No, it's not all right. It's not all right to pay a dude $180 million and he doesn't even translate to making your team.
Let me show you why. Let me show you why it is. Because
180.
Who was the quarterback before Tom Brady?
Drew Brees. Drew Bledsoe.
Drew Bledsoe. Mm-hmm. And he had signed the first
$100 million contract. Yep.
And what happened to him?
He got hurt.
Because he wasn't the same prior than he got hurt before.
Right.
And then you had Brady, and thank God Brady was there to sit over and take him to the
playoffs.
To the playoffs. Hold on, that's not the only time that's happened. What happened in Seattle when Russ was drafted? They had just got who?
Who did they get that year?
Flynn.
Oh, yeah, that was terrible.
And just paid him $70 million. And guess who they sat over here and had the wherewithal to sit over here and not just draft, but to start over that individual. And what did it lead them to? Back-to-back Super Bowls. So at the end of the day it doesn't matter what you paid the original motherfucker that you thought was going to be the deal. Mm-hmm. When you get somebody better,
play him.
Because what does it result to in both scenarios?
It looks like it's
a high level of success.
True.
And they're not talking to you about that. And what this general manager had the wherewithal to do is to say, I'm not going to sit over and rest my laurels on a 36-year-old that was non-mobile, that has a ruptured Achilles tendon, and expect him to come back. Because if he doesn't come back the same, or if it takes him a while and that record's not there, and then he gets hurt, and then you didn't draft this individual, and you got some Mickey Mouse behind him that can't win games, what's going to happen to that general manager?
Out of here.
Have a nice day.
Right. You put us in this position.
So at the end of the day, everything that these individuals are saying is an absolute lie. Literally. There was no room for them to drop back because there were two teams, Seattle and the Raiders, that were trying to move up to get them. So there was no way to move back. The money that they paid him was predicated upon what the owner said to do, not the general manager. So let's stop blaming the general manager for paying Kirk Cousins when that wasn't what he wanted to do. He wanted to bring in Justin Fields on a 2-year deal, less than half of the money that they're paying them. But the owner said no. So all of this blame game that they're blaming on the general manager, that they're blaming on the coach, because we are putting in a position, they are putting in a position a quarterback that's going to be their future. And everybody is saying this is absolutely outrageous.
Getting that money.
But at the end of the day is they did something that is going to keep this team afloat when Kirk Cousins inevitably does not perform up to standard. This is an individual that in 10 years of a starting quarterback in the NFL has one playoff win. And they're over talking about don't draft him, get another player to help Kirk Cousins win a Super Bowl. Kirk Cousins doesn't have multiple wins in playoffs. How could you talk about Kirk Cousins in Super Bowl in the same vein?
That's a tough
one. So at the end of the day is what we do know is this has nothing to do with the GM in Atlanta being not competent like they're trying to paint him as being. It has nothing to do with the coach not being competent. It has nothing to do with the quarterback not being competent, because it's so funny when I listen to people like Chris Sims and Mike from PFT, Mike, I can't even think of his name. When you have these very high exposure individuals talking about what really the issue is what happens when Kirk Cousins comes back and he's not the player that they expected. And then the rest of the team is seeing Pennix perform
that
well.
locker room issue.
Then they're talking about there's going to be a locker room issue. And there's going to be a locker room issue because their guy is not performing in terms of Kirk Cousins, but the other one is. And that's a justification on why you shouldn't have picked him, because he's going to perform so well. This has nothing to do with being a bad pick. It has everything to do with the great replacement theory that these individuals are talking about, and we're seeing this take place in front of our eyes. You and I can remember a time when there wasn't a quarterback that looked like Pennix that could get a job in the NFL.
True.
Moon, the quarterback, old quarterback from the Houston Oilers, had to go to the CFL because he couldn't get a job.
True.
They were few and far in between quarterbacks that were qualified as early as recent as when Lamar came into the league. You had the ex-GM for the Colts. What's his name?
Oh, Bill Polian.
Bill Polian saying he couldn't be a quarterback. And now we're talking about 2 MVPs later, and only one vote separates him from having 2 unanimous.
Yeah.
But you had Bill Polian saying he couldn't be a quarterback. So we're talking about in the recent times, we're having individuals saying individuals look like Pennix can't be quarterbacks.
Nah, I agree.
But you're trying to sit over here and tell me that was a bad pick and that these cats don't have any clue what they're doing, and that Kirk Cousins is being done wrong because he's not going to play well and the other players are going to want Pennix. What happened to being an alpha?
Right.
What happened to sit over here and when you're a champion, when you're a real champion, we know he's not a real champion in terms of Kirk Cousins, that you welcome competition.
Compete. Yeah, we always want to compete.
We just saw on the quarterback show that Kirk Cousins needed a sports psychologist because he couldn't keep his head together. But we want to invest $180 million into that instead of a player that's sitting over here and is succumbed to 4 injuries,
right,
and then come out
tough, ain't
thriving
forever. He been there.
But we want to sit over here and act as if Kirk Cousins is what we got to have. Ladies and gentlemen, you are being lied to. You are being bamboozled and hoodwinked in terms of what they're doing to you, in terms of this scenario and this situation that's happening in Atlanta. The general manager and the coach did exactly what they were supposed to do because they knew the quarterback that the owner made them get was not a viable option. But media, as you're telling them that these cats don't know what they're doing. They don't have the intellect. They don't have the analytical prowess to sit over here and understand this. This is what I've been hearing.
Mm-hmm.
But I guarantee you, we're going to look back at this 2 years from now.
We're going to be able to go back to this conversation.
And obviously, this general manager and this coach was doing what was best for the organization, even when the owner didn't have a motherfucking clue. He's an 80-year-old who is just concerned with having somebody that looked like him.
True.
Rather than having a player that actually was going to move this team forward and put them in contention for. Now, Lord knows I wanted to go further and go deeper.
Man, it's okay.
But you know what? I think I've made my point. I think we see individuals that make choices that don't know what the fuck they're talking about.
It happens.
And when you have individuals that do know what they're talking about, they are vilified. They are vilified, ladies and gentlemen.
Out the box.
This was by far, no matter what metrics you look at, the right thing to do. They're bringing up Pennix's age. He's 24. And saying in 5 years, he's going to be 29. As if Kirk Cousins at 41 coming off an Achilles was an actual viable quarterback.
For that amount of money.
He's only going to be there 2 years and he's out. That's why the general manager and the coach are lockstep into getting Kirk Cousins out of here as soon as possible and putting this man in. And they're talking about the smart people are talking about Kirk Cousins might be out in 1 year. Because I can promise you is he ain't going to look good. He's not going to look good. And Pennix is going to look much better than him in practice and in games that he's not going to be able to play. And everybody's going to know that the $180 million was paid to him. It's just like everybody has a problem with Deshaun Watson getting a guaranteed contract, but for whatever reason, nobody's concerned with Kirk Cousins getting a guaranteed contract.
Which is the worst deal.
And he's won one playoff game in his entire career. Ladies and gentlemen, don't be bamboozled with that. That was a brilliant move in which they did. That set over here and guaranteed that franchise is going to have an opportunity to survive past the owner's bad decision on wanting to sit over here and bring in somebody that looked like him, because there was another player who was born and raised in Atlanta that was set to come there, and the owner scratched that to bring in Kirk Cousins. And the general manager knew, I'm not going to sit over and put my job on the line. Let Kirk Cousins trick it off. And then I get blamed for it when Kirk Cousins gets hurt this year, and then we bring in another shitty quarterback and we don't make the playoffs this year. He was going to get blamed, and guess who was going to get fired? Him. He said, bump that. I'm going to sit over here and bring in a real player.
Yeah, I'm not going to hitch
my wagon. The person that's supposed to be, I'm not going to hitch my wagon to a 36-year-old, mediocre, sorry, at best individual.
Top 15, maybe?
Who?
And I'm paying you maybe.
Who?
I give him at his best top 15.
He was top 15 last year when he was having the best year of his entire career.
That's why I said I give you top 15.
But here's the twist is.
You get paid like a top 3.
But you can't sit over here and give him top 15 and he done ruptured his Achilles.
But you're getting paid like a top 3.
Is Rodgers, can we say Rodgers is going to be the same player after the Achilles?
No.
If Rodgers ain't going to be the same player, we can best believe Kirk Cousins ain't going to be the same player. But the thing
is, I could swallow a little more if he was getting paid like a top 15, but he's getting paid like a top 3.
He's getting paid like a top 3.
That's ridiculous.
But hold on. It's ridiculous. But that's not on the general manager. The general manager wanted to sit over and get Justin Fields. Let's give him 2 years. Let's sit over here and pay him a total of $40 million over the 2 years. That's $20 million.
He probably wasn't even going to get that.
He wouldn't even
get that. That fifth-year option was going to be 25.
25 and the year before,
right? Or something right now.
So. About 8. So we're talking about $33 million over 2 years.
Right.
The owner said, we don't want to pay a dude who's young. We only have a 2-year commitment. And that is exciting and from Atlanta.
Yep.
We didn't want to pay him that money. We wanted to give this
who doesn't
mediocre, sorry individual.
It doesn't fit the culture. Doesn't fit the area.
Doesn't fit anything. And what we hear as a complaint is that, oh my God, the Pennix is going to look better than him in practice. And so it's unfair. He's going to look better in the game if he gets hurt or if he starts off badly, and everybody's going to want him. According to Chris Sims, because Atlanta's a black majority city, that it's unfair that they did this because everybody's going to be wanting Pennix. All of this victimhood on somebody that you're paying $100 million guaranteed.
Why would you
It's
do that?
victimhood on why Pennix is going to be detrimental to Kirk Cousins instead of Kirk Cousins being an alpha and being a real man. So I told y'all I actually have a whole lot more to get off. But I'm going to save it because I'm going to sit over and layer this all the way through while we hear these media trying to disrespect the general manager, Fontenot, from Atlanta, the coach, in terms of what's the coach's name again? What's my man's name?
Oh, you got me right now. Cause
the coach who came from the Rams. While they sit over and try to disrespect Pennix, I'm gonna continue to enlighten y'all on why that was absolutely brilliant. Raheem Morris. While y'all try to disrespect Raheem Morris, I'm going to sit over here and systematically let y'all know why, thankfully, that organization needs to be thankful and blessed that you have Fontenot, Raheem Morris, and Pennix versus what the owner sat over here and tried to put on y'all simply based off of only the quarterback look like him. So with that being said, we got a whole lot of shit to get to. I'm sure we're going to continue to hear this bullshit, and I'm going to continue to overcome it and continue to sit over here and demonstrate. Any of y'all have any doubts, get your ass in these fucking comments so I can sit over here and enlighten you. Any of you got any doubts? This was brilliant for the organization. If you got any doubts, give them comments. Holla at me. Send me a message so I can sit over and educate you. But with that being said, we had a great show. I appreciate you as always.
Yes, sir.
Hey, NFL, we got more action coming to you. We'll see you next